Quantum leaders, the Guardian consciousness as architect, not bystander. The Guardian's natural style, systematic, loyal, and deeply attuned to order, makes them the keepers of form and continuity. They are often seen as the ones who maintain what already exists. But under the quantum principle that consciousness is architect, not bystander, the Guardian's role expands. They are not simply executing inherited systems. They are encoding consciousness into every structure they preserve. Their routines are not neutral. Their checklists are not passive. Every action they take is a living imprint of the mental, emotional, and energetic field they carry inside. With a motivation direction of away from, the Guardian seeks to avoid chaos, inefficiency, and breakdown. This can seem purely reactive, but in truth, it's formative. The drive to prevent error becomes the template for the system itself. If the Guardian acts from fear or rigidity, the system becomes brittle. If they act from calm clarity, the structure becomes resilient. Consciousness is not just what they carry, it's what they build into every process, schedule, and safeguard. Their attention focus on self grants them internal steadiness and control. But this self-focus is also a transmission. If the Guardian sees themselves as the last line of defense, always holding the burden, their systems will reinforce that isolation. But if they hold themselves as a trusted steward within a wider whole, their systems begin to invite participation. Their internal narrative becomes the pattern the system mirrors. With an internal frame of reference, they follow rules that feel right to them. But those rules are architecture, codes that shape external behavior. If their beliefs remain unquestioned, they risk installing outdated mindsets into modern structures. Guardians grow when they recognize that every internal standard is a design choice. They don't just execute logic, they embed values into the structures they manage. Conscious order becomes living integrity. Their procedural operational style makes them excellent at replicating systems. But procedures are never just steps. They're embedded philosophy. Does the process imply trust or control? Flow or fear? Autonomy or micromanagement? Guardians elevate from maintainers to conscious architects when they realize their systems teach as much as they organize. Every checklist is a signal. Their specific viewpoint helps them track micro details with precision. But every detail is a building block. When they place it with awareness, it becomes more than correct. It becomes coherent. Guardians who bring intentionality to even the smallest functions, a label, a log, a form, begin to shape cultures of order that are felt, not enforced. With a solo work preference, they often act behind the scenes. But solitude doesn't make their influence invisible. Their silent systems speak for them. The tone they bring into their work, the patience or tension, presence or pressure, leaves a trace. Conscious Guardians realize, I don't need to be loud to be formative. I only need to be clear. They shape the room through the clarity of their presence. Their dissociated emotional engagement allows for calm, unbiased execution. But neutrality is not absence, it's design. How they hold emotion or don't becomes part of the atmosphere they create. If the system feels cold, it mirrors their emotional distance. If it feels sturdy and kind, it mirrors quiet attunement. Guardians grow when they embed warmth, not noise, into their operations. Emotional resonance doesn't require display. It requires intention. As matchers, they replicate what works. But replication is still creation. Every time they say, let's use this model, they are choosing what kind of world is reinforced. Guardians become quantum when they ask, does this method reflect the consciousness I want to live in? Not just, did it work? But what does it say? Their choices write blueprints for behavior. Their through-time orientation makes them skilled with timelines, forecasts, and pacing. But even time is architecture. Are they designing schedules that sustain energy or extract it? Are they building timelines that respect human rhythm or override it? Conscious Guardians begin shaping time as a container of care, not just control. Their plans become more than efficient. They become humane. And with a primary drive of things, they are drawn to results, systems, and structures. But now, each thing they create is more than a product. It's a transmission. A system built in anxiety carries friction. A workflow built in care carries coherence. Guardians lead quantumly when they realize everything I manage becomes a reflection of how I manage myself. In this frame, the guardian ceases to be merely the protector of systems. They become the weaver of ethical structure. They embed consciousness into policies, reliability into routines, and quiet wisdom into form. They don't just uphold the old, they preserve what is sacred, discard what is obsolete, and design what is stable because it listens. Their work becomes a temple where order breathes and structure speaks with soul. Quantum leaders, the guardian. Polarity creates the blueprint of experience. The guardian's natural style, disciplined, reliable, and inherently protective, thrives in environments of clarity, routine, and tradition. But within the quantum field, structure is not static. It is tension held well. Every process the guardian maintains, every boundary they uphold, every standard they reinforce exists between polarities: control and flexibility, consistency and responsiveness, certainty and curiosity. Their true leadership emerges not from resisting these tensions, but from mastering them as design tools. In a world of constant motion, it is the guardian's ability to hold opposites, firmly, gently, that creates environments where people and systems can thrive. With a motivation direction of away from, the guardian seeks to avoid error and disruption. The polarity here is protection versus possibility. When too focused on what could go wrong, they become overly cautious, slowing progress. But if they ignore their gift for foresight, systems become fragile. Their wisdom lies in oscillating between caution and courage, honoring their impulse to protect while still opening to the unknown. They don't stop change, they prepare it. Their attention focus on self gives them inner consistency and autonomy. The polarity here is self-reliance versus shared responsibility. Too much self-focus can become over-control. Too much dependence risks dilution of standards. Guardians grow when they lead from personal accountability and invite others into it, modeling structure that includes rather than isolates. The balance between solo strength and relational presence becomes the architecture of trust. With an internal frame of reference, they follow their moral compass. But the polarity lies between conviction and evolution. Unquestioned standards can ossify. Over-questioning destabilizes order. Guardians are at their most powerful when they embody enduring values and allow periodic recalibration. In holding both tradition and refinement, they become ethical anchors, steady and responsive. Their procedural operational style brings consistency. The polarity here is order versus flow. Systems that are too rigid break under change. Systems that are too loose erode trust. Guardians master polarity by designing frameworks that bend but do not collapse. They become system keepers who know when to enforce and when to adapt, when to pause a process to honor a person. Their specific viewpoint gives them mastery of detail. The polarity here is micro versus macro. Focusing too much on particulars can obscure purpose. Too much distance causes errors to go unseen. Guardians thrive when they toggle, tracking precision while holding the whole. They become the lens that adjusts scale, showing others how a single misstep affects the broader integrity of the system. With a solo work preference, they gain clarity and focus. But here lives the polarity between autonomy and collaboration. While guardians often excel alone, systems require interdependence. Their maturity lies in designing roles and processes that invite trusted interaction without compromising order. Their leadership becomes a rhythm of solitude and structured synergy. Their dissociated emotional engagement keeps systems from becoming reactive. The polarity is neutrality versus connection. Too much dissociation may be interpreted as coldness. Too much involvement risks loss of clarity. Guardians lead best when they offer steady warmth, an emotional presence that supports without collapsing into reaction. They become emotionally intelligent without emotional volatility. As matchers, they replicate what's worked before. The polarity here is tradition versus transformation. When too anchored in precedent, innovation stalls. When precedent is dismissed, valuable stability is lost. Guardians flourish when they build systems that evolve without breaking lineage, honoring the past as scaffolding for what's next. Their through-time orientation grants them temporal order and foresight. The polarity exists between schedule and responsiveness. Too much emphasis on planning creates rigidity. Too little results in chaos. Guardians master the art of timing when they learn to ask not just what is due, but what is ready. They shift from enforcing time to orchestrating it. And with the primary drive of things, they bring ideas into solid form. But the polarity here is execution versus essence. Too much focus on output can strip soul from the process. Too much idealism can leave systems ungrounded. The Guardian's quantum leadership shows when they build systems that feel like something, where every document, meeting, or protocol transmits care, clarity, and value. In this paradigm, the Guardian ceases to be merely the enforcer of structure. They become a sacred engineer, balancing polarities not to resolve them, but to design with them. Their leadership doesn't eliminate tension. It holds it, reads it, and builds form from it. The Guardian becomes not the protector of the past, nor the resistor of change, but the composer of equilibrium, ensuring that what is stable never becomes stagnant and that what is evolving never becomes chaotic. Structure becomes alive. Order becomes meaningful. And systems become places where people can exhale. Quantum leaders, the Guardian. Quantum entanglement, the thread between all things. The Guardian's natural style, precise, responsible, and grounded in procedures, suggests that their impact lies in visible structure, rules, systems, routines. But quantum entanglement reveals a deeper truth. Nothing the Guardian touches is ever separate. Each checklist, correction, or timeline they create sends subtle ripples into the emotional, relational, and cultural fabric of the system. Their work may seem localized, but it is energetically systemic. Every time they stabilize a process, they also stabilize a field. Every form they uphold carries a frequency. With a motivation direction of away from, the Guardian acts to prevent breakdowns and minimize risk. But entanglement warns, even prevention transmits a tone. Systems built with anxious vigilance tend to feel constrictive, while those built with calm foresight invite ease. Guardians lead most effectively when they notice not just what they're preventing, but what they're projecting. Fear multiplies, so does steadiness. Their internal state becomes part of the protocol. Their attention focus on self supports personal reliability. But even isolated decisions become entangled with group flow. A boundary enforced alone affects morale. A solo decision made in silence may shift dynamics the Guardian didn't intend. Quantum leadership asks, what unseen relationships is this action touching? When Guardians hold responsibility as part of a system, not apart from it, their execution becomes relational stewardship. With an internal frame of reference, they operate from deep inner standards. But those standards shape more than action. They shape culture. A Guardian who sees following the process as sacred will reinforce that belief through energy and expectation. Others will internalize it. That's the entanglement. Guardians who embed flexibility and respect into their standards build systems that are not only effective, but felt as fair. Their procedural operational style is their signature strength. But procedures are not static. They're energetic pathways. If created under pressure, they may transmit stress. If designed with clarity and care, they broadcast trust. Guardians lead quantumly when they view every SOP, checklist, or form as a message. What is this structure telling people about how to behave, feel, or belong? When the unseen meaning matches the task, harmony emerges. Their specific viewpoint allows them to notice details others miss. But in quantum terms, every detail is entangled with a larger field. A single phrase in a manual can alter emotional tone. An overlooked inconsistency can seed distrust. Guardians who honor this know that even small choices have systemic weight. They begin designing with both accuracy and awareness. With a solo work preference, the Guardian prefers to operate independently. But even solitude is relational. The system feels their presence or their silence. A Guardian who quietly handles everything can unintentionally train others not to step in. A Guardian who shares context, even briefly, creates relational stability. Entanglement reminds them they are always in the field, even when working alone. Their dissociated emotional engagement offers neutrality in emotionally charged spaces. But in quantum fields, emotion travels. A Guardian's composed silence can soothe or create distance. Their steady tone can feel reassuring or suppressive, depending on how it's carried. Quantum leadership isn't about being expressive, it's about being energetically intentional. A single gesture, tone shift, or moment of recognition can stabilize the emotional atmosphere of an entire room. As matchers, they value proven methods. But what worked before is entangled with the energy of that moment. Copying the method without sensing the field risks reinforcing what no longer fits. Guardians evolve when they ask, is this solution still attuned? Entanglement teaches that technical replication must be matched with relational attunement. Then tradition becomes living wisdom, not frozen habit. Their through-time orientation lets them plan with foresight. But time is not linear in quantum systems, it is layered and felt. A delayed task creates invisible pressure. A well-timed update opens creative bandwidth. Guardians become quantum conductors when they ask not just is this on schedule, but is this in rhythm? Their pacing influences everyone's mental and emotional load. And with a primary drive of things, they work through visible output, structure, order, results. But entanglement says everything is a carrier of relationship. A policy communicates trust or distrust. A system broadcasts assumptions. A routine becomes a ritual. Guardians who realize that form is never neutral begin to infuse their outputs with intention, coherence, and care. They don't just build functionality, they encode harmony. In this dimension, the Guardian evolves from quiet executor to systemic signal tuner. They are no longer just the one who keeps it running. They are the one whose tone, timing, and integrity silently organize the space. Their actions transmit meaning. Their processes hold feeling. Their discipline creates freedom through trust. The Guardian is no longer the background. They are the stabilizing frequency in the field, the one who, through quiet precision, helps the whole system exhale.